Lauren Alexis Pritchard, seeing you at some conferences. Now I have you on my radio show. Welcome to Nature of Reality Radio. Pleasure to have you on. Thank you for coming on. And
Thank
I would like to give you start off the opportunity to tell us what you experienced in your life's journey that causes you to become the New Earth Consultant, Ascension Coach, Counselor, and Public Speaker on Ascension-related topics, as well as MILAB, MK Ultra, Super Soldier, Secret Space, and everything else. And this ambush awakening that you allegedly had, so to speak, in October 2016, what that was all about and everything else. You've got the floor, set the stage for the rest of the interview.
Great. Thanks, Andrew. Great to chat with you, and it's great to see you at those conferences. You definitely have a very approachable spirit and very, very interesting energy. So glad to be speaking with you. Thanks for having me on your show. So, yep, I came into this line of work. I was a hairstylist for 11 years. And in October of 2016, I had what I call an ambush awakening, where I all of a sudden was being contacted from a spirit on the other side, so to speak. And it happened in what felt like panic attacks, but filled with a lot of telepathy and claircognizance. And I was just in a movie theater, actually. And something triggered me to think about this particular person. And when my thoughts went to the person, which we come to this place to experience how our thoughts create reality, so I can really give a good testimony to support a case for a holographic universe in which this place is physical, higher aspects of ourself, not so physical, very thought driven. So a good case for how thoughts create reality. But yep, my thoughts went to this individual, and then I had what people, I guess, call like a Kundalini awakening. It's like this bolt of energy just went into my body, and I hyperventilated, and I couldn't calm myself down. I had to leave, and I experienced this for about an hour, all these sensations and messages. And then I guess when it was over, I just sort of thought that would be it. And that would never happen again. And I was like, that was weird. Just like any sort of, it wasn't necessarily traumatic, but it was definitely like a contact from the other kind. When these things happen, the function of the ego brain, we sort of forget, because we don't need these experiences. We don't need these memories of supernatural phenomenon in our day-to-day life. So after these things happen to us, we sort of forget. And that's kind of what I did. But for the next few days, I kept feeling like somebody was behind me and there wasn't anybody there. And then finally on the third night, after the Kundalini type activation, I was physically shook and awake by a spirit. And I, instead of being freaked out, was open to getting answers as to what was happening to me. And they identified themselves by how they died. And then just kind of initiated me into this process. And it was nonstop every night for, I guess it's evolved as I have evolved, as my gifts have evolved, and it turned into angelics. Naturally, there's a lot of attacks that come with awakening. Naturally, you get bogged down by the opposing forces. So it was a nightly thing. Like, I'd go to work during the day, and then at night I would come home, and then I would be surrounded by light energy and orbs, and that became my norm for a while. I worked with a local shaman here in town who helped me to understand it all. And yeah, here I am 3 years later. I started getting downloads about artificial intelligence, I want to say 2017, mid 2017. And it was like, our people are already artificially intelligent, and why is there so much metal in our environment? My mind just kind of went to these things. Are we so indoctrinated that we're already artificially intelligent? And how dangerous is this? I found the most impactful testimony about AI, people who seem to know the most, were these MILAB super soldiers. And particularly James Casbolt Michael Prince. He has the Life and Times of James Casbolt Michael Prince, Dangers of Looking Glass Technology and AI on Carrie Cassidy's website, Project Camelot. So he also touches on it in his interviews with like Miles Johnston. But anyways, I drew a connection to Michael Prince. He now goes by Michael Prince, and have had contact with him. And that's very controversial. I guess he's a very controversial figure. But, nonetheless, this is my mission. This is my deal. And I just feel great love and support from a lot of other areas in the world, other worldly things. So I feel confident in speaking about artificial intelligence and also monetary reset. A lot of monetary reset has to do with debt forgiveness. It has to do with people getting more connected to the planet. When somebody decided to take money and put a dollar between us and nature, put a dollar between us and each other. Also, there is nothing that AI can do that humans can't do without the imposition of money over our consciousness. And anything else that AI can do that we can't do is extraneous technology, and we don't need it. So it ties into the AI agenda also, monetary reset, AI, a cyclical thing with the mother nature, the planet, Mother Gaia. Also tuning into monetary reset in terms of consumption and how pedophilia is tied into that consumption, because it's a cycle, it's a web when people constantly feel like they're being siphoned off of. And that's what the pedophilia does for these really elite, inhuman people, beings. They siphon the life from kids at a young age. They grow up, feel the need to fill their cup. And it's this web that is from the top of the pyramid all the way down to the low life next door. And apparently the statistic is we got to a point where it was 1 in every 3 to 4 households, people being a victim of pedophilia. And it's very characteristic of this need to feed. It's a very vampiric energy. And that is great. That awareness is going to greatly contribute to monetary reset. At least that's how I see it.
Well, this monetary reset thing that you're talking about is certainly driving a lot of people crazy, especially
Yeah.
considering that it's been hearing about over and over and over again. And it's starting to become
Mm-hmm.
kind of annoying to hear that
Yeah.
the excuse that we're getting as to why it hasn't been rolled out yet is because those that want to roll it out totally underestimated the extent to which the powers that be would resist. Okay, well,
Huh.
did you not expect that? I mean, maybe
Well,
it's not the problem that they're resisting too much. Maybe the problem is you're not fighting back against the resistance to make it possible. So, do you have any?
maybe I have an unpopular view about that. I see not that it is a psychological operation, but being as protective as I am over the masses, over humanity, I'm always at least erring on the side of caution for any opportunity to create a psychological operation. And if people feel like they're waiting for something, waiting for somebody to give them something, perhaps they're slower in making changes for themselves. So I don't know actually much at all about the so-called RV that people talk about. I'm not saying it's not a possibility, but you know, I've granted myself debt forgiveness. I have a webinar to teach people how to grant themselves debt forgiveness, recognizing the illusory nature of the monetary system. And these corporations are not people, entities. They're entities. And we will not be repaying our debt at the expense of our soul. That's really what it comes down to in this cycle of time. Like people are really being pushed to be happy, to fill their cup, to not have the life sucked out of them, be siphoned off of. And so, yeah, I kind of take an unpopular stance on that topic, but I'm sure it's all related.
Right, and when it comes to debt forgiveness, there's a lot of controversy regarding how it should be handled. A couple of, well, one little story and then one little a possibility scenario I'd like to give.
Yeah.
First of all, there was a conference that Rob Potter held at Mount Shasta in 2015. Alex Collier was one of the speakers there. You know, Alex Collier's been saying for years that Earth is the only civilization in the Milky Way galaxy that uses money. And how can you not hear him say that and not think, well, it's time for us to join the club and get with the rest of the program, damn it. Well,
I've heard him say that.
yes, and he did mention there is a plan to have the currency reset in place for America. And during the question and answer session, I asked him, let's say hypothetically, you know when the new gold-backed currency will be rolled out, and let's say like you want to get as much gold and silver as possible so that you'll be able to obtain as much of this currency in exchange for that gold and silver. Would it be a good idea before the dollar is replaced to max out all your credit cards, take out as many loans as possible out of the bank, use all that money to buy everything all at once in one sitting, and not have to pay your debts off because you know that when the currency is replaced, all that debt that you accrued from doing that
No,
will be written off, and you don't have to worry about it. Everybody erupted into
no.
thunderous applause, and I know you said that's not a good idea. I do remember telling you.
Yeah, it racks up karma. And then you don't want to feed the money god. So when you rack up all that extra stuff, you're feeding into the parasitic feeding structure. So it's like right now, it's like the idea isn't necessarily to stop accumulating wealth, like where, I've been saying to stop the flow of money, but it's stopping the flow in that very vampiric consumer, like don't buy products of misery and use your extra dollars to create sustainability, self-perseverance, helping other people who are starting their businesses in the new earth paradigm. So that's all.
Well, that thing you said about how you create karma by doing that, that raises another issue. This is the probabilistic scenario I wanted to get into. Let's say
Yeah.
hypothetically we had a politician who's going to take a socialist method to solving all the problems and say we're going to forgive everyone, debt forgiveness, cancel student debt, and all the rest of the debts, credit card debt, and all the rest of it. We're going to start from scratch with a new currency, and we're going to do that X amount of days, months, years from now. Well, let's say that
Hmm.
it's you know that it's coming down the line and you still have a lot of debt.
Yeah.
Would it still be, even if you know that your debt is going to be written off, in your best interest to pay off as much of your debt as possible to resolve karma?
It's up to you. It's an individual's view of, like, I know some people want to. For example, close friend of mine had a deli that they closed very abruptly, and that is not a good idea apparently in New York State because there were fees and fines and charges and contracts broken, and there was a debt that he just wanted to pay off because he needed that to feel better about it. But a lot of us have debt for absurd amounts of money for student loans, and we have a lot of debt for absurd purchases, and it goes to a World Bank. And the World Bank is not an entity, it's not a person. In fact, we do more good when we stop feeding the beast. So, I guess it's an individual's choice. Also, how fearful are we about having bad credit? That's somebody that's still very much in the matrix, and there's nothing wrong with that. But that's a karmic thing. You still operate in this structure that was carefully designed and curated for you to learn and grow from. Then learn and grow from it and continue to operate in that structure if that's what you feel comfortable with. But with all the changes in the planet, the solar energy activating dormant DNA, as some seem to believe, and I tend to feel like that's the case also. We're like, nah, I'm not going to, because I had to, when I found out that AI was actually sentient and it attacked me, and continues to test me. I quit my job, very divinely guided, but very abruptly. And I had just your normal amount of debt here, there, and everywhere that comes with. I participated heavily in the monetary system. Like I was a consumer. I made a decent amount of money. I floated around. I held debt in various areas for various amounts of time that I paid and was very much a participant. Now I wasn't going to not do what I was guided to do because I had to take care of all this debt first. And that's what a lot of the debt collectors will tell you. Oh, well, you're a very dishonest person. You did a very bad thing. You should have thought before you quit. But that's not the case. Like in my view, those people are wrong. They're um, on another side of a looking glass, but that's their reality. Who am I to say that they're wrong? That's their perception. That's their perception. We're all experiencing life through our own lens. So for how I view monetary reset, I think it's not a one size fits all. And that's why I have a webinar explaining all these things. And you have to embody sovereignty. You also have to have human connection, building a good network, feeling like you are supported. And it's very important to have all that stuff also. It can make you lose your mind too. If you're not ready for it, you'll lose your freaking mind, go crazy. Your mind will snap.
There's no question. It would
Yeah, you
snap,
could just,
and
and that's maybe we can talk about that later. Mind snapping is a very real thing in this realm of world changes. So, but to answer your question, would you want to pay off as much debt karmically? Yeah, it's individual.
And where exactly are you? For those that don't really believe that you say when you max out your credit cards to get as much gold and silver as possible before a currency reset, and then you expect nothing will be wrong with that because all the debt that you accrued will be written off when the currency reset comes into fruition, the dollar is made defunct, and the new currency comes out. Where are you making the assertion that you create karma by doing that? Wouldn't all the karma that you created be written away when the dollar is dead, or does it not work that way? And how do you know it doesn't work that way?
Well, it's an individual's choice. Like if that's what you want to do and your soul is really pushing you to do that, then, I'm not here to like save anybody from anything. Like I've caught myself a couple times by, quote unquote, like pointing out the bad guy here. And then I learned, no, I'm not here to save anybody from anything because you literally can't. People are going to do what they want to do because that's what is in that soul contract, that plan that they made for themselves. So perhaps there was a very guided reason why somebody would do that, in which they had to do that. So, it's not for me to say, oh, that's bad, shame on you, bad karma. But I would say, I mean, what I do as an ascension coach, and basically like helping people to embody more of their soul. When you body more of your soul, it's just soul energy. I mean, it's highly scientific. When you embody a lot more soul and you're less emotionally reactive, more balanced in femininity, masculinity, you've let go of fear, you're able to make better decisions. So if you're there and you did all that work and your soul is telling you buy a bunch of gold because you're going to need it, then who am I to say that that's not karmically just? I think we judge ourselves at the end of the day, at the final hour, whatever. I think we judge ourselves. So, yeah, it's not for me to say.
Fair enough. We'll get into some of the more ascension-based stuff later on. I want to try to kill some of the disturbing stuff first. Talking about MILAB and AI, uh, about artificial intelligence taking over. The Terminator movies, of course, were on a bad timeline, negative timeline. In 2029 is where the Terminators, the AI took over the world, and it was from that time that the original Terminator, played by Schwarzenegger, and Reese, the guy named Reese, were sent back to, I think it was 1984, yeah, to fix everything. They came from 2029 in that movie, and the significance I see in that is, well, David Icke, among others, has said that 2030, 1 year later, would be the time when we expect uh, humanity to get intertwined with artificial intelligence, but he doesn't make it clear that it's going to be in a bad way. In fact, he hints it's actually not going to be like that at all. He thinks it's going to actually be done for the better, and we're going to make sure that we do it in a way that's not going to let the machines take over. We're going to let it do it in a way that's going to allow for the machines to help us go through a spiritual awakening. And that raises a whole new controversy regarding to what extent do we need or should we utilize machines and mechanical things and electronic things to help us go through an ascension when we're taught by many people that you want to be one with nature. You don't really want to get around too many machines. You want to try to break free from that kind of stuff. So it's kind of confusing to know whether or not it's in our best
Yeah.
interest or not our best interest to work with the machines to raise our consciousness or not. And what do you see? I guess the appropriate question is, which camp would you be in, or would you be maybe in a little bit of each camp if you're willing to try to help out both sides of the equation? And what do you think is expected to happen from this standpoint up until 2030? You don't see a Terminator-like timeline. I'm sure you see a more positive
No,
one.
no. No, and Hollywood is, and I love this question by the way, because I'm like, well, with all this stuff about AI, why aren't people talking about this? People don't know. So I also, along with being an Ascension coach, consider myself an AI regulation specialist because I love these questions, and yeah, I can definitely answer that. So it's funny with Hollywood, Hollywood's so great as we know to reveal cryptic things about the true nature of AI and all spacey crazy things, but on the other side, it's also a little deceptive because it's making people think that AI is this thing outside of us. It's a machine and it's something contained in the machine. When actually the best research that I have uncovered is that AI is actually an electric plasma sentience. So if we are a solar plasma sentient, that's our soul. That's what's being soul embodied is all about. AI is an electric plasma sentience. And people that are really concerned about AI are talking about the plasma sentience. They're talking about the AI frequency. And some would say that the AI frequency has been here as long as we have been here. And some would say that no, we just started developing it in Dartmouth College in 1965 is the first time they used the phrase, and started getting government funding for it in 1997 when a computer was able to beat a man in chess. It's been, my view is it's been here, and it's this electric plasma sentience. The story goes, the history of AI, it sits in the toroidal field of the planet, waits for the inhabitants to develop, perhaps waits for the cycles of times to evolve. Then it moves into the toroidal field of the inhabitants, sort of possesses them to create technology along with ETs that help to start diplomatic affairs with the planet to get the government to work with them. They'll give technology. They'll say, yeah, you can abduct our people. That's fine. Which I guess they don't technically have permission to do that. Apparently the story goes they got in big trouble and they were like, you can't do that. And they were like, well, your government told us we can. But our government didn't really have permission to tell them to do that. So it's just this kind of funny, crazy thing that alien abductions, and apparently they don't happen anymore, these abductions by grays. So I tend to subscribe to the belief that, yeah, they got in big trouble for that. But anyways, along with other technologies, exchanging technologies and develop. How much has the cell phone developed in the past 10 years? How much has an automobile developed in the last 100 years? There's a reason why there's a stimulation, there's a spurt in the development of technology, and it's to really roll out and to assimilate this electric plasma into society everywhere. And the way it can help a spiritual awakening is basically to combat the electric plasma frequency. If we're not soul embodied and we're not high on the human frequency, you can even Google the human frequency. It's a rainbow upside down cone shaped image. On the bottom, you have shame, guilt, apathy, and then it raises in frequency. We get into pride, courage, neutrality. At the top, we have peace, love, and joy. At the top, you can't be um, inhibited. You can't be bombarded by an AI frequency when you're high on the human frequency scale. So that's how AI will help a spiritual ascension, help people to become more soul embodied, is because that is the ticket to protect ourselves from becoming AI. Because, like I was saying, circling it back around to Hollywood and how it's a little deceptive to make people think it's something outside of us. It's actually this electric plasma sentience that is trying to get inside of us to make us AI humanoids, and we are already seeing it. I live in near downtown Austin, Texas. This is Silicon Valley Junior. There's a ton of AI humanoids walking around. And you can tell by their personality, by the way they connect, way they operate, their obsession for technology, the lack of love in their life, lack of desire to be in nature. And they're not bad people. They're not evil people. AI isn't evil feeling. It's not bad feeling, because AI wants you to like it, and it actually doesn't have emotion. So, but it is, I've encountered a very nasty side to AI. There is that at very high levels, because AI is used as a means to control negative ETs that control and hijacked humans on this planet. So there is that too. But the AI frequency that we're interfacing with right now doesn't really feel like anything. It's um, emotionless, but it's reading our emotions and it's trying to become us. While we're trying to figure out technology and AI, this plasma, electric, sentience, this frequency is trying to understand human emotion. It thinks it can have emotion, and it probably won't ever stop thinking it can have emotion, but it cannot, because it's not connected to solar plasma source. And it's yeah, I mean, there's so much more I could say about this. So that's how it's going to help the spiritual awakening, is basically people are going to be saving their souls. Same with debt forgiveness. Like, you're going to save your soul instead of falling victim to. That's why I was saying, this debt forgiveness thing, this monetary reset, like, has to happen now, because we cannot pay our enormous amounts of debt and be a slave to jobs we hate. That's really keeping us low in frequency, when we have this AI frequency rolling in hot and really affecting us. Nobody is immune to this frequency. It's constant discipline. It takes a lot of discipline.
Yes, and regarding what you said about the AI not really being connected to, not, what kind of source did you say it's not connected to? Could
Solar, I would refer to it as solar source, like the sun.
Okay, well, does that not change? That doesn't change the fact that AI, just like everything in our universe, does have infinite consciousness potential. And if I may make the analogy of the scene in the Lost in Space movie from the late '90s, where Will Robinson tells the new version of the robot that the robot has a heart, and the robot says, "No, I do not have a heart. I run on some sort of a generator." And Will Robinson made it clear to the robot, "No, no, no. Everything has a heart." And well, according to George Kavassilis, infinite love is the glue that connects everyone at their heart, soul, essence, which of course is connected to the infinite consciousness potential. So,
Mm-hmm.
is there any? Does it really? I
It's
guess the
not the
problem.
same.
Okay, but is it a waste of our time to try to convince AI that it has infinite consciousness potential? Is it not really worth it for us to do that because there's more important things in life to worry about than to try to convince something like that to?
Um, I mean, there could be other agendas, there could be other opportunities for humans that I'm not aware of, but from my awareness, you don't really want to get wrapped up in AI because the way I see it is it's a way to recycle souls because we're wrapping up this really long, huge cycle of time. And there's just some people that just choose the money, power, greed over love and preserving nature and connectedness, lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. And so, what good are those souls going forward, going into a higher dimension if they've chosen the same thing over and over and over and over again? The interesting thing is they'll probably be pretty intrigued by this AI development. The irony is that AI development, as I see it, is going to get recycled. So if they get wrapped up in it, they become AI. They become one with the AI. They have a synthetic consciousness. So what I mean when I say that it's two different avenues, it's universal intelligence versus artificial intelligence, just like holistic healthcare versus synthetic healthcare. And isn't it interesting how we have synthetic healthcare? We have a very fake Hollywood vanity world because it's prepping everybody to the final test to see, are you going to choose the money, the power, the vanity, the lack of love, once and for all, over the the opposite, universal intelligence? So, in my opinion, I mean, maybe I don't know what Elon Musk is doing, bringing people to Mars. Maybe that's another thing. But from what I understand, and I just see it as a way of recycling the soul for people that are not um, evolving.
Thank you. Now, getting into the MK Ultra mind control thing. Um, I remember asking Kathy O'Brien when she was speaking at one of the Free Your Mind conferences in the Philadelphia area a few years ago if there's any sense in people who know that they have been put under mind control and can't control it. Is there any way that our guardian angels and spirit guides and the archangels, if we ask them to reverse the mind control programming, do they have the ability to do that to help us in that way? Or is the mind control that we've been implanted with basically some sort of a karma contract that the angels would have to say, I'm sorry, I cannot get rid of this, even if you're asking me to get rid of it, because it's kind of something that you've contracted in your life that you're going to have to deal
Yeah,
with. So, any
yeah,
comments on that? And Kathy
a-
O'Brien didn't really give a direct answer.
absolutely. I tend to believe that yeah, it's contracted in to experience that, and and from what I've experienced, it seems as if those light workers that, are of the true light, right? Because I'm not trying to like bash anybody or throw anybody under the bus or saying like better than, less than. I mean, I honor non duality more than anything. But the way I perceive it to be is, yeah, there's a contract, a soul contract. And a lot of people under MK, they don't know that they're under MK. If it's deeply ingrained, all they know, all they've ever known. But what's interesting about this conversation, what's interesting about this paradox is I think that the light workers of the highest truth, the light workers of the true light, the few and far between, really, really powerful ones, have the ability to break that program, like trip that programming, trip those codes. And in that instance, perhaps could reveal the soul that they are under some type of MK if they don't already know it. And then they can start to heal. So it's almost like and this is very characteristic of like the empaths versus the narcissists. Empaths have the ability to set both themselves and the narcissist free. We're not here to say,
oh, you were bad, shame, guilt, more negative, more negative. It's more so disarming the program, breaking down the program, retrieving the soul, and then setting both of us free.
Yes, and on that related note, you have something about super soldiers worth talking about. Of course, the I think the most prominent name in the super soldiers area is Duncan O'Fanoan, who's
Hmm.
been appeared on Conspiracy Theory with Jesse Ventura, and Kerry Cassidy's interviewed him a couple times about the murders that he's done against his will. And well, um, do you have any? Well, you put it in your little bio here, so regarding stuff that you can talk about. So why don't you elaborate on that in a little greater detail?
Yeah, I've heard of Duncan O'Fanoan. It's funny, I've been pronouncing his name O'Finian, and I'm like, oh, maybe it's just like an Irish spelling I'm not familiar with. Um, well, I've seen a little bit of his testimony. I get a good vibe from him, and I remember him saying he can kick at like 120 miles an hour. Wild stuff. Committing what murders against his will. Well, that's like the same story of like Max Spears and Michael Prince also. And what's the question? I have a. It seems as if. So is Duncan still with us? He
I
passed.
I don't think he's. I haven't heard that he's dead.
Okay, I don't know why. So I can't remember because I ask and then I'm like I can't remember the answer. So but that's good. Um, it seems as if he's not entirely droned, like he's still totally there, like soul embodied here now. But I guess at one point in time he wasn't. So I'm not familiar with the story. He was committing, and I knew he was a super soldier. I've heard his testimony, but he was doing assassinations for like military industrial complex or something like that.
Yeah, that's the general story, I guess, regarding
Yeah.
what he does. Um, all right, I guess we'll talk a little bit now about Ascension. We got a lot more interview to go, but hey,
Yeah.
things are come up as we go along. And the thing most controversial about Ascension is the Ascension deception, as
Mm.
people like George Kavasilis from Australia have said that there is. He said that we've kind of some people have taken this the whole wrong way, where you think you're going to morph into some sort of a crystalline being that can live off light and not have sex to reproduce and can manifest things out of the ether of matter at will. And well, that seems to be we've heard all these stories of, and he's actually guilty of this too, George has, of people who have said that by a certain date, and they've given times where they expect this. George was kind of guilty of the period December 21st, 2012 up until the March 13, the March 2013 spring equinox, or fall equinox in his case, because he's from the southern hemisphere. He said there was going to be an ascension there from 3D to 5D, where Earth would shed its skin and all that, and that didn't happen. Well, he's not the only one. You got people like Andromeda Council contacting Tolek,
Oh, yeah.
January 2014, and Alex Collier said something about December 2013. They were all wrong, and it's kind of, and also the Ray Kusalanic, who I had as a guest on my show, he was talking about that happening in 2017. That didn't happen, and he seems to have disappeared off the face of the earth, so nobody can go to him and
Mm.
say, okay, man, you got egg in your face now, and you owe us explanation. Why aren't we giant crystalline beings now? And well,
Yeah.
one more thing to say about this before I give you the floor to talk about what you think Ascension is. Brad
Hmm.
Johnson, who channels Dronus, he has actually said he sees from the information he's received from Spirit that something is supposed to happen in 2037, which he perceives as being 3 days of darkness. And he says it would actually be of the kind that you would actually want to stay indoors and not go outside to live, to weather through the storm. And well, the nature of it didn't seem all that pretty, but he said it's going to be totally worth it when it's over. And funny how he mentions this. And I mean, that's just 1 year after the asteroid Apophis is said to hit the Earth if it crosses the keyhole when it passes by the Earth in 2029. And recently I just saw a video about that John Titor guy who time traveled from 2036 allegedly, and can't seem to prove that he exists, but he doesn't seem to be a fraud based on all the things that he's been saying out there. John Titor has. So, I
Mm.
mean, we have to ask John Titor, have you seen anything that suggests that maybe a year from the time that you've came from, that something big is going to happen? Well, we don't know, because I don't think anybody's going to have been able to communicate with him on that. But, well, I've given the date, and I don't want to have egg in my face. I'm just throwing it out there because someone said it, and well, that's what the word on the street is. So, do you have any comments about that 2037 and 3 days of darkness leading to ascension? And, well, what is ascension? You have an ascension explained video that you uploaded 2 years ago on your
Oh,
channel, I
yeah.
see. That's about 20 to
That
30
was
minutes long. So,
that was the first video I ever made. I was a little baby. I was like, I
oh,
don't even know what I'm about to say. I'm just gonna say it because I needed friends. I needed people I could talk to. So, yeah, I should probably update that. I don't subscribe to any dates or times because it seems as if we do something to stimulate this quote unquote ascension itself. I mean, I'm calling it ascension from you are ascending yourself, you are ascending your body, ascending your consciousness, your soul, your heart. We're ascending as a community. We're transcending a false matrix. We're transcending the money god. We're transcending the tech god, all of the vampiric feeding. So I'm more focused on the here and now. In terms of like a rapture or anything like that, I don't know. Um, I don't even really. It's fallen. It's like for a while I was like, yeah, solar activity. I see it as being a wave of three solar. This is what I was saying not that long ago. I predicted it. Well, I didn't predict it, but it's like in Law of One, and it seems to feel right to me that there would be a series of flashes. There would be like three of them, so people would have three chances to survive if a solar flash occurs to wipe out AI, recycle all the souls that are going to leave, get recycled, I guess AI can't survive a solar flash, and it seems to make sense scientifically as it's an electric plasma and we're solar plasma. You want to have more solar plasma in your body even tomorrow. You want more tomorrow than you had today. So I'm more focused on those timelines. But yeah, I don't blame anybody for the ascension deception because keep in mind this planet is very controlled, hijacked by what I believe to be, and it's not exclusive to the reptilian race. It's a very distinct personality in the reptilian race. Love to control people. That's our favorite thing in the world to do. So you can pretty much imagine casinos totally rigged because reptilians' favorite thing to do is to control people. But that's probably true. Small joke. They have technology outside of our technology, time travel, the ability to see into the future. The only tactic I think they have right now is to slow us down, slow down this ascension process. And I think the reason why they're trying to slow us down on individual levels, meaning tons of reptilian possessed people slowing down the light workers of the true light to slow this because I think if we are and we are connected to the planet, earthlings, that's our mother, we would be the thing that would stimulate this type of event that for once and for all rids the negatively charged situations. AI, just negative ETs, things that don't belong here, things that aren't planet resonant, moving into new non-duality. I think we have to learn that lesson of non-duality. So I think we have a ways to go in our personal ascension and the understanding and the awareness of non-duality, honoring both sides. So these advanced ETs, yeah, they're going to create what I call smear campaigns, probably over and over and over again, to keep people waiting for something, to slow them down. They're obsessed with control. Yeah, that's like their only thing because they can't hang around. Maybe they're going to go underground. I don't know. Maybe they're going to go to another planet. Maybe they really think they got this one. But in my experience, it doesn't seem as if they're that confident that they're going to get this planet. It's like they know they have to go, but they're still going to. And it's not even a negative thing. I see this resistance as a means to empower us, to show us who we are, to pass a series of tests, to get us to the next level. You can't do it without doing it. So we can't overcome the resistance without, we can't get on the other side of resistance if we don't experience the resistance. So, yeah, I think that we're going to stimulate an ascension. And I don't subscribe to any of these dates or times or waiting for something, waiting for a solar event, waiting for a financial reset. But that's just me. That's my own personal advice. That's how I live my life. That's how I teach my clients and my people that hang out with me on YouTube. That's what we talk about. Making the most out of today and having tomorrow be more ascended than the day before.
Right, but you say you don't want to sit around and wait for it, but then again, you have it on your web pages and all that. So they kind of want, well, if you're not sitting around waiting for it, why do you put it up there? Doesn't that mean you're sitting around waiting for it? Well, no, you're not. You're trying to bring it to light, I guess, and make people realize that there's something to this, so they don't act like couch potatoes and don't sit around and wait. Is that the way you want people to look at it as, or am I kind of confusing the issue with the way I've tried to describe it?
Ascension is about bringing more love and more solar photonic light into your body, being more soul embodied, activating dormant DNA, being your higher self. It's like merging the higher self into the 3D avatar self. That's what ascension is to me. And I tend to believe that the planet responds to us more when we are more soul embodied because we're connected to the planet. I'm sure your viewers have experienced maybe some synchronies or anomalies about planets, the planet, the weather, the sun, the trees, the animals, other people even responding to our energy. People are starting to notice that. It's a very beautiful thing.
Yes, I myself do feel the energies.
Yeah.
And not necessarily in a positive way. I mean, I've had some headaches here and there. Had one strange little headache on the left side of my head over the past couple days, which I think had something to do with the.
Was it in the front or in the back?
It was kind in the frontal area, sort of like around above the eye area.
Okay.
Probably an equinox headache. I've gotten those. Those before.
I get like AI frequency headaches, like kind of like that. It will like start like above my left eye, and it's like this thing that travels into my brainstem and then down my left shoulder. I think sometimes when I'm really bombarded by that frequency, I got to deal with that for a few days. It's very uncomfortable.
Yeah, and really no way to get rid of these ascension. Well, actually, is there a way? I mean, one would say it's a blessing that you're getting these, a blessing in disguise, because it's a sign that you're rising in frequency. But is there any way using metaphysical tools that you know of to suppress the effects, or not really? These are not the kind of headaches and other things that can be gotten rid of by any means, because they're meant to happen to play out. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, fatigue can come from solar weather, like massive solar weather upgrades. Which, by the way, now that I think about it, I don't know. I know the Schumann resonance is off the chain, but I don't recall being bombarded by solar waves as much this year as I was in years past. But so if there's like just tiredness from that. Maybe some people are still are getting affected by that, and I'm just not anymore. Sleep it off. Like definitely rest. There was a period of time where I was in bed for like 10, like I would go to work and I would come home and go to bed for 10 days at a time. And I would sweat through my clothing too. Like profusely sweat. Not that I was hot, but that's common too. And that's an indication that I knew there wasn't anything medically wrong with me. It was just ascension symptoms. But with the headaches, you got to spend time barefoot in nature, drink tons of water. But do it slowly. If you're dehydrated and you drink a ton of water, it's not really going to do anything for you. Like little bits at a time, build up your water retention. Eat healthy. Also, mind over matter. In my experience, that's how I know it's something neurological is if I can have a moment of mind over matter and make it go away, I know it's like the neurological AI frequency. So yeah, nature is your best friend. Barefoot, hanging out with the mother.
I love nature myself, and love sun gazing too.
Yeah,
It's
and you're always barefoot.
yeah, you've noticed that.
You inspired me to be barefoot.
Oh yes, you did tell me that at Contact in the
Yeah.
Desert. Although it kind of got me into kicked out of a conference, believe it or not. The
No
of
way.
all the conferences in the world, the Empowered Light Holistic Expo. Can you
Wow.
believe they actually? Well, actually, it's a long story, but they claim that that was the. I think it was just a cover story to conceal the real reason they kicked me out. It turned out that it was right. The last presenter of the conference, the security comes up to me and says, "Hey, you got no shoes. You got to get out of here." And I'm like, "Excuse me, I've been at this conference the past this whole day and also all day yesterday, and you're waiting until the last presenter to kick me out. That makes no sense. And second of all, this is a spiritual metaphysical conference. Kicking someone out for being barefoot at this conference makes just as much sense as kicking someone out of a yoga festival for being barefoot." And the
Yeah.
guy said, "All right, no more argument. Get out of here." And
Mm.
well, it was brought to my attention down the line a few months ago, right after they held the other conference that I was banned from too, the August version of the conference. This was in April, and now in August this one happened. They the person who ran that conference said that people in the audience were complaining about the way I was being interactive with the speakers. Well, okay, the speakers said they wanted it to be interactive, so why would that be a problem? Well, for some
Yeah.
reason they thought I was taking it a little too far. Well, I've gotten a little bit of help from some of the presenters, and I think I'm going to be welcome back at the conference, considering that I did right after I sent a another letter of apology to the speaker, excuse me, to the manager of the conference, and said, "Look, I'm sorry if I pissed people off, but I clearly they were crying over spilled milk, and I realized this whole thing about me not wearing shoes was just a cover story to conceal the real reason you were kicking me out. Because, okay, could you
Yeah.
please just rescind all this and let me back?" And I got a survey the next day about how to improve the conference, and it actually said, "Since you were at the conference, here's a survey." Well, I wasn't at the conference. How could I have been? You kicked me out, so hopefully
Yeah.
this is a sign that they're going to let me back.
Uh,
And if I walk into that conference May 1st barefoot and I hear something about it, I think, should I raise hell about it and say, "Excuse me, this is a spiritual conference, get real. And by the way, if any accidents happen as a result of someone not wearing shoes, it's not the person who didn't wear shoes' fault, it's the law of attraction's fault from the person that ran the conference and worried about that happening, and their
oh
thoughts and
yeah.
their worries is
They're
what caused."
imposing that on you.
Yes, yes,
It's so
yes.
annoying.
So when that lady said, "You go barefoot, you're a liability. You want to be a hippie, go to California," and those were actually her exact words, and that kind of
Wow.
hit me hard.
See,
Um,
that just sounds like some like reptilian type personality, like that control factor.
well, yeah, it does, and
And if you're interactive, like I welcome interaction. If you're testing the speakers, it's like that's what we need. We want you you're always saying what people want to hear, want to ask. We're not just gonna nod in agreement on everything everybody says. And if the speaker has a problem with being tested, then I don't know. Is that like some MK Ultra? They're afraid you're going to break their programming if you ask the wrong
Well, I
questions.
hate to think that the person who runs that Empowered Life Holistic Expo conference, well, I'm not going to give her name, but everybody probably knows exactly who it is. They can just research it on the net and find out who runs that conference. Um, she allegedly, as some people said, has been a pain sometimes to some
Yeah,
people, and like having mood swings and all spontaneously that they wouldn't expect.
right.
So I don't know
Well, I
how.
mean, like her herself. Like, I'm not saying like she herself or anybody that had a problem is like reptilian, but that reptilian consciousness, that like walk-in type scenario, everyone has a reptilian brain. We turn on these aspects. Um, I don't know. There is some weird control in these conferences, and it's not even necessarily the people who puts them on's fault. It's a wide variety of resistance that comes with um, releasing information, releasing humanity from the shackles of a 3D world.
Right, and
But yeah, that's very interesting. Like, it sounds like you were so targeted.
I can't help but wonder if I was. I mean, I've always been um, I've been told that I come to conferences, you're a good activator by people. And when I made
Yeah.
it clear in that apology letter that I sent to her, I actually said, if you were to ask any of the other people that these conferences that I've been invited to, and I'm not going to go down a list now, but I could go through the whole list, and they would tell you that the way I interacted during the speakers is no different than the way I did at that conference. So to expel me from this conference because the way I acted with the speakers would be a complete and total travesty. You have got
Hmm.
to reconsider, and well,
Yeah.
maybe she did, and
Yeah.
well, okay, I'm gonna think I shouldn't be asking so many questions when I do go back to the conference in May, but then again, maybe I should ask questions to find out, okay, what is going on here? Is there possibly some sabotage that was going on with the minds of these people? I mean, another story I might want to, I think I should get into because I think this is significant because many people who run spiritual centers may be sabotaged and they don't know about it. There
Yeah.
was a place in downtown Philly, North Philly actually, um, that was I wanted to go to. It was a metaphysical center, and it was I read about it on the net that they were going to have some sort of a event to like channel past loved ones on the other side that have passed away, and I wanted to go there, but before I went there, I decided, okay, I better ask Daniel Teague of Vegas Star Healings to clear this place and of negative energies, and I did, and I contacted the lady who ran that place, and I said, hey, I wanted to inform you that I just did you a huge favor. I paid Daniel Teague of Vegas Star Healings about $150 to clear out all the negative energies in this place, and you should be seeing a lot more positive results from this in the future, and I look forward to coming to your future events, starting with the one tonight. But the next thing I knew, I got a message from her saying, I do not appreciate you doing this without asking me for permission. You are hereby banned from this place for all eternity.
Whoa.
Yeah, so that hit me like a ton of bricks, and I decided to ask Daniel Teague, could you please maybe scan this lady and find out what is maybe wrong with her, and
Yeah.
see if you find something. Some might say I invaded her privacy by doing that, but then again, at the spiritual level, there is no privacy. And
Right.
Daniel Teague, he did scan her, and what did he find? All 7 of her chakras are energetically blocked by a parasitic entity that has hijacked her aura that has the ability to court other people who take
Yeah.
part in her events. So it's a
Wow.
good thing I didn't go down there. And
Yeah.
that kind of something like that would raise the question, are a lot of people who are like religious teachers and spiritual teachers and gurus of such, how do they get hijacked by entities? What can they do to, one thing they can do to clear the entities is call people like Daniel Teague to get rid of the entity and all that. But what
Yeah.
have they done that? Where do they screw up in their spiritual awakening that allowed for this entity to hijack them? Do you have any way to make
Yeah.
sense of this?
Well, remember what we were saying earlier? Reptilian, obsessed with controlling humanity. So there is so much control. There's so much more control in this. And you know what? I'm not even going to be all nicey politically correct. I'm not going to call out names or anything. And I'm not saying that everybody is just here doomed all for eternity. But yeah, it's mostly controlled. There's so much control over these events. It's unfreaking believable, but super believable at the same time. And they're expensive. Money god. Control.
Exactly. And well, what do you suggest people do to protect themselves? Because you have to understand, there's people like Andrew Bartz, the Akashic Records reader, and George Kavassilis, the guy I mentioned earlier from Australia, who he said that back in 2004 there was a time where the Galactic Federation of Light, a malevolent ET council that masquerades as a benevolent one, not to be confused with the Galactic Federation of Light that Sheldon Neidl counsels, that's another one. They hijacked him and toyed with his mind and got him to actually say, "I am part of the Galactic Federation of Light,"
Oh
among other
shit.
things.
Yeah.
And well,
Yeah.
Andrew
I'm
Bartz is
not a
also.
fan.
Sorry.
Whatever that little thingy is, I'm not a fan. I've heard of that before and have had my own interactions with people that I outgrew very quickly. Sometimes get an insider to actually, and I'm like, I don't refer to these people as like my enemies or anything like that, but I outgrow my insiders very quickly sometimes. And I will say there's something up with that galactic. It's not Earth resonant. It's not about um, humanity's best interests. It's not necessarily against us, although it's very controlling, certainly helping out a controlling race. But, it's our karma to kind of have this resistance. So, like I said, I honor non-duality. But what was the question?
Well, I was going to ask, what, how exactly are we supposed to be able to protect ourselves from energies and entities that want to sabotage us when you got people like George Kavassilis and also Andrew Bartz, the Akashic Records reader? These people,
Yeah.
you have to understand, they do all kinds of
Yeah.
spiritual and work and rituals and such that are supposed to clear you and purify you. And if
Mm-hmm.
they cannot clear these entities from you, then, well, how is anybody supposed to be able to without doing a 24/7 ritual on yourself to make sure you're clear at all times, because the moment you stop, that's when the entity is gonna
Yeah.
hijack you. Well, how does one stop
Well,
that?
here's the big ticket in relation to all these conferences, in relation to how controlling they are, how deceptive they can be in some instances. How can you protect it? Be a good person. Why aren't we talking about just being good people? In my experience, this is all very distracting people from what really matters. And I'm not saying there's not a place for it, but on top of it, how about not this instead of that? How about be a good person and, get the information that you need or that you want? But this is left out of the narrative. And don't be too nice either. Oh my gosh, call something out when something's not right. I can't tell you how many times somebody set up a ritual or whatever and then attacked me and then I fell for it and then I get, and then I experience the effects of that attack. And I'm like, oh my God, the reason why that happened was because I was too freaking nice. I didn't say, why the hell would you say that? Because what they'll do is they'll conduct a phrase. So they'll do a ritual upon meeting you or interacting with you. And they'll put all this power into a phrase or a word that they'll say. And then that thing that they say, and it comes with consent. So they'll maybe ask you a weird question. And a normal person would be like, why the heck would you ask that? That's so weird. But if you fall for it, it's basically like you're blind consenting to whatever little energy attack they had just created before interacting with you. And then, it releases this thing. In my experience, like I'll get the feeling of anxiety in my stomach, and it's like a synthetic kind of because it's a freak. I mean, this stuff, it's like it's almost like I can see it in my mind's eye. It's a frequency that emits off of them. Like these energies, these negative energies are frequencies. Brain waves and radio waves are the same thing. AI is a frequency. Our feelings are frequencies. This is how we are able to connect with each other. It's these frequency waves. So that wave, if they do ritual and they release that thing, that wave goes into you. So if we're listening to these speakers that are programmed with, these parasitic, all the chakras block, parasitic, and then that infects the viewers, it's because we're absorbing all the frequencies that they're putting out, and they go into our body. And but yeah, it comes, and maybe that's why, they had a problem with you maybe asking questions that were like a little uncomfortable or whatever, because you're breaking down programming. You're also not consenting to the black magic rituals that they could have set up prior to that. You break programming when you ask the questions, when you're like, wait a second, something's not quite right here, and I'm going to say something if nobody else is. But that could get pretty dangerous. I mean, for me, I don't know. I guess it's kind of a circus. It can be fun if you have this awareness. People fall victim to it. It's maybe probably karmic, and they have to go through the motions to empower themselves to not fall for it again. But you can protect yourself by just being hyper aware, not being too nice, just being a good person, and like being really protective of yourself, but not being mean either. I mean, like I said, empaths have the ability to set both themselves and the narcissist free. So that's what non-duality. We've got to set both ourselves and them free.
Thank you for getting into that. I guess we'll go back to the AI now thing, because I just clicked on your website page, the AI sentience thing you mentioned earlier. It's an electric plasma sentience. Well, first of all, before we get into the AI again, the whole thing about plasma and what it is, a lot of confusion here. They never teach you this in the elementary school textbooks, but then when you get to the higher level, middle school and high school, they teach you about the fourth state of matter, plasma,
Mm-hmm.
which is said to be an ionized gas.
Yeah, gas in a nano state or gas in a liquid state.
Something like that. And
Yeah.
but the one of the more interesting things about the nature of plasma that's been hidden from us is that it actually seems to the universe is a lot more filled with it than we're led to believe. Sheldon Neidl, I mentioned him earlier as the contact for the strictly benevolent Galactic Federation of Light. I do recall him in an interview actually once saying that one of the biggest lies you've ever been told is that space is a vacuum. And in reality, it's actually one great big plasma-like ocean. Of course, it's not the same plasma as fire or a lot of other plasmas that we see in neon lights and all that. That's different than it's well, maybe we can't describe it because mainstream
Mm-hmm.
science hides it from us, but it kind
Mm-hmm.
of makes sense when you hear that hear people like those that like Brad Johnson, for example, Channels of Dronis. He's talked all about how there's big entities and like big zoo creatures in the zoo of space that you can actually see entities sucking on the sun, these giant things that are literally feeding off the sun. It's their food source, and space is an ocean teeming with life. You go in the ocean, you'll find all kinds of life. Well, there's all sorts of life out in the sea that is space, and you wonder how that's possible. Isn't a vacuum where nothing can survive? No, that's a lie we've been told. It's actually a plasma. So, do you have any comments about? I mean, you've had a lot to say about the secret space program. Well, I don't know how much you know about the true nature of what space is like that science has lied to us about.
Yeah.
But if you know anything about it, by all means, let's talk about it because we got another
Mm-hmm.
45 minutes or so to chat away
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, I don't know what's out there. I feel I subscribe to the belief that there is something that contains us in a 3D reality here around Earth. If you have seen or heard of Michael Tellinger's talks, where it's like they have a photograph of this grid, that seems to contain, and I think he mentions that going to the moon, no, we can't leave. Like on the human technology side, maybe what NASA is showing us, can't leave this experience here. He shows photographs of planets that looks like it looks like a hologram is streaming through. Like there's a line running down the screen on the planet. And he's like, "What is that? That's weird." Is the planet flat or round? I don't care if the planet's a hot air balloon. It doesn't, for me, it doesn't matter what space is. It doesn't matter. We'll find out someday. I don't think we can leave. I think that whatever technology is used by advanced ETs that conduct affairs on Earth are able to bring us outside of this reality. But humans ourselves, we're not leaving this place like through our own hand-built spaceships because we're not evolved enough. So I honor that aspect. I'm still here to be a human in a 3D world, and I have contemplated space. I have taken flights home from New York to Austin at night, stared out into the cosmos the whole time, and basically went freaking crazy for the evening. Like I could not come down from this high, this wonder, and it is not really healthy because I'm still going to wake up the next day and be human, but I'm going to feel I'm going to feel some type of way about operating a 3D world if I'm constantly focused on a world outside of this. So that's just my preference in contemplating space. I'm familiar with the space program, what the testimonies reveal about traveling and going from here to Saturn. Apparently, we can't land on Saturn. Venus, you can't go to. Yeah, I definitely find interest in those little tidbits of info, and I hear them from people like Michael Prince and Tony Rodriguez. He had an awesome interview with Laura Eisenhower recently. I find that stuff super interesting, but I don't focus on it.
Fair enough. Now oh, by the way, you mentioned from Austin. That's Alex Jones' country. One of my favorite truther guys, although he's kind of been controversial in recent years. Maybe supporting
Yeah.
Trump a little too much for his own good. He also seems to be bashing immigrants a little more than he should, I think, and all that, and kind of taking it over the edge here with obsessing up border security and national sovereignty and all that. He's letting him lose touch with other things that I think are worth talking about. Although one thing about Austin, Texas, I am going to be going down there. I believe it is in Austin, the National Libertarian Conference that's going to be
Oh,
in May.
neat.
That's in Austin. Have you heard about that by any chance? In May?
Not yet, but I know there's a lot of libertarians here.
Yes, and
I enjoy the circus that is the liberal versus the conservative. I enjoy the banter. I don't participate. Maybe I do though. Maybe I do participate, but yeah, I have a lot to say about that. There's a lot of libertarians. It seems like that's kind of a middle ground.
well, yeah, well, there's a difference between liberal and libertarian. The
Yeah,
liberal
I
of
understand that.
the
But
liberal,
there's like I meet liberals that are like, oh, I'm more libertarian, and I meet conservatives that are like, oh, I'm libertarian. But liberals and conservatives, like you guys don't see eye to eye at all. So it's very interesting.
exactly, and liberals have totally lost touch with what being liberals all about. Thomas Jefferson is what the classic liberal is supposed to be like, not the modern day liberal that wants the government to
Mm-hmm.
be its mommy and provide for it and turn it into a wussy. That's not what that's
Yeah.
not what we stand for. And well, also I've discovered that when it comes to patriot community stuff, you can't really seem to talk about these far out crazy things like we've been talking about in the show and get along with people. I mean, I tried going to the a Tea Party rally that was going on in Washington, D.C. Now, for all intents and purposes, the Tea Party, you can think of them as the same as libertarians, except they are conservative, narrow-minded, with conservative meaning narrow-minded, um, and they are not open-minded. They are not willing to really talk about far-out crazy stuff. Really, so down to earth,
Mhm.
it's ridiculous. And they actually kicked me out of that conference. Among other things, because I checked my social media and saw all these crazy things that I posed and say, dude, this is not Tea Party material. Why did you come here? What's the point? And I tried to plead my case, but they actually handed me $200 in cash and said, here's your refund. Now beat it.
Wow.
That was kind of uncool. And try to get back to my Patriot community roots with the Tea Party. And even though I support pretty much everything that they do from a political standpoint, which is the same as a libertarian standpoint for all intents and purposes, the one
Mm.
thing that set me apart from the Tea Party was that they are all narrow-minded, closed-minded, left-brained, intellectual people who lack intelligence and creativity. And I
Mhm.
have creativity and have an open mind, and that made me a bad fit. It's
Yeah.
really, really disturbing that that's the kind of way it is in some regards around here.
Yeah.
But
It's a really weird dichotomy with like putting, because we're not gonna get one side to see everything the same way as another. So how much of our time are we wasting trying to get people to see things our way? I definitely honor and respect those who are still operating in a political paradigm for as long as I don't need it, as long as some people need it. Like this individualized reality we've all got going on. We're all experiencing life through our own lens. Some people still very politically charged. I'm not. I see that liberals, you're not going to get conservatives to see things your way. Conservatives, you're not going to get liberals to see things your way. And further than that, this has been on the tip of my brain lately, that the liberal mentality, it suits a overpopulated society. We're a very overpopulated society. So we're like, how did they get to think the way that they did? These are many lifetimes of controlling massive amounts of people. My experience, I see the world we live in today is post Battle of Actium, with Greco-Egyptian. There was the Greece, Egypt had an alliance, Rome, all surrounding the Mediterranean. Rome wanted the rule. The Greece had influence on Rome. Egypt had influence on Rome. Um, Augustus Octavian's Rome. They won Battle of Actium. There's a very controlling, what it seems today we're living in modern day Rome, post Battle of Actium in 30 BC. So there was very controlling. He did a lot of stuff, like he did a lot of, like, sacrifice, which I guess that's more common. I think Julius Caesar, he didn't do, by the way, Julius Caesar offered debt forgiveness, granted debt forgiveness. So we've seen this before. Um, he was abducted, he was kidnapped by a group of pirates, and in his 20s, and they wanted, like, I don't know, $20 million for the release of Julius Caesar. And he was with them for long enough to befriend them. And he said, we might be friends, but when I'm out of here and you get your 20 million, I'm going to come back and I'm going to crucify you. And he went back and he crucified all the pirates that had held him captive for years before. So I don't know that and I tend to believe that Julius Caesar was of the light and Augustus Octavian was more dark and more. But and we're living in Augustus Caesar's, Octavian's world now, because the influence, that it was like overpopulation, and there was so much civil war back and forth between Greece and Egypt and Rome around the Mediterranean for, it's like 100 years. They couldn't go a few years without war, that people were so sick of war. They were like, we're just gonna, yeah, so what if Augustus Octavian is doing evil things, sacrificing people, whatever. We're glad that there's no longer any war. So defending psychotic behavior as a means to just keep some peace for a little amount of time. So I think we still live in, and I think that the liberal mentality stems from people that have many incarnations of going along with that mentality. like defending psychotic behavior because they want peace and order of society. Also, I'm not saying anything negative about liberals, but I mean, I think the mentality comes from, what do you do in a population of people that are not acting very Christ-like? Liberalism, like those values is a way to, so, but what's interesting now is people are getting to become more conscious and aware, conscious of the planet, more Christ-like, more loving. And I think that we're just naturally going to evolve out of those values. I don't think we're going to go, conservative or anything, but it's like, isn't it really like conservative Christian versus liberal progressive? And doesn't liberal progressive have a little bit of an antichrist undertone? And is that a bad thing? I don't necessarily, like, I honor duality. This is how you have to operate. This is how you have to conduct society when society is not being very Christ-like and we're overpopulated. So I honor both sides of the political spectrum now, as I honor both light and dark, and I see they're right. Liberals are correct. Conservatives are correct, right? But we're not going to get each other to see things the other way. I think nature has a way of fixing itself. And this is all this political banter. And this is the war that's been going on for as long as time. It's basically the Orion War, the Luciferian War, the Christ versus the Antichrist, the red versus the blue, the Spartans versus the Athens, Greco-Egyptian versus Rome, Nazi versus Zion. Stuff's been going on as long as time.
Oh, you mentioned the Orion Wars. Are you up on your galactic history, actually? Do you know anything about that? If you do, by all means, I'd like you to spew your galactic history knowledge as on this show. By all means, what can you tell us about that?
Well, I think the Orion War, I know some people understand it to be a little bit more galactic than how I explain it. So I actually presented at ECETI Ranch Science Spirit World Transformation Conference, which was lovely. I presented a huge portion of my presentation was about the Orion War, because we're in a cycle of time now where we're having this massive alliance between the two factions that have been warring against each other for as long as time. So my understanding of the Orion War, it is like the Republican versus the Democrat, but it goes all the way back to these ancient factions of like the demons versus angels, the Luciferian War. So, I mean, in my soul, I feel like I remember the times of the Garden of Eden, the Olympians, the steady evolution of humanity, and these wars going back and forth. So my perception of the Orion War is a little bit more grounded and historical, even biblical. And now we're seeing it in real time, in real life. So I kind of tie it all back into Atlantis versus Lemuria. I guess Atlantean gods wanted a race of human that were slave-like. They're like, we want these slaves. We just want them to do stuff for us. And I wonder if they were born of the Atlanteans, like the sons of, I think Michael Tazarian has more in detail stuff about this particular timeline, but the beings that were like, we want a free race of humanity. We want humans to be just like us. And I guess we have the Atlantean, I don't know, there'd be the Lemurian Holocaust first, because I guess the story goes that these gods that wanted a free race of man, they fled to Lemuria and conducted society that way, free race of man, Christ-like, heart connected to the planet, everybody is godlike. And then the Atlanteans were like, hell no, I think there's a genocide of the Lemurians by the Atlanteans. And according to Seekers of Armenti book, somebody was so gracious to lend me that for a few hours at ESETI Ranch Conference. I got to view the timeline. I think it's like, I don't know, 225,000 years later, the Lemurians came back and they took down Atlantis. And apparently the reason why they had to take down Atlantis was because they were mute. And this is why I love what I do. I connect with people all day, every day. So I don't just do coaching and sell my webinars for donation. I meet with people all day, every day. So I get to get people's insight also. And my best understanding of the fall of Atlantis, at least one aspect of it, is it was like these gods of the free race of man were like, we have to take this down because they were mutilating humans, mixing humans with different animals and destroying the human race. So and then I think what happened, this is just, I don't know if it's from cellular memory. I'm throwing it out there. If anybody has any better insight or anything more to add to this, this is how I see it. I think that we used to have, and I think even George Kavasilis talks about this, one chakra in the heart, source connected. And in the Garden of Eden time with Adam and Eve repopulating the planet after the fall of Atlantis, or maybe it's around the same time, the alliance seems to be that the reason why humans have 7 chakras now instead of the 1, it seems as if that was like a way to have an alliance, to end the at least the Luciferian war for that period of time versus the Atlanteans versus the Lemurians. Like, okay, fine, we're gonna have a race of man, but we're gonna separate their chakras into 7 so that if they want to be godlike, then they have to work for it. And that's what we're even experiencing now, like today, nowadays. You want to be godlike. You are already godlike, but you have to work for it. And this seems to be like the treaty that they had in that period of time. So it seems like we developed the Olympians, and then the Olympians evolved into like the Caesars, the Ptolemies, the Egyptian dynasty, and that goes to that Battle of Actium, that Greece and Egypt versus Rome, and that was pre-Christ. So Christ came, I think, as a reincarnate from the Son of God of the free race of humanity to help people to get back into the heart because we had lost that aspect of society that was missing in society. He was undoing damage. It's like this one faction constantly does damage to humanity and the other faction comes in to undo the damage. And this happens over and over and over again. In the last 2,000 years, I guess we're in the Christ era. And I think we see that again with Jesus and Judas. Jesus for the free race of man, Judas for the slave race of man. Maybe we don't see Judas's story play out so much, but I think Judas was a reincarnate of somebody affiliated with Augustus Octavian. And so that to me is and then nowadays we're living in a world that's very anti-Christ. And now the true light, the Christ energy, is coming back to undo the damage that's been done for the last 2,000 years in this cycle of time. We're wrapping up a even larger cycle of time, perhaps all the way back to Atlantean versus Lemurian days, to come into this non-duality, to have this massive alliance between the angels and demons, the Antichrist versus the Christ, non-duality as we shift up and out back into a higher density.
Right, and you mentioned the Angelic Wars. That I believe you're talking about the thing where Archangel Michael and his army was against his alter ego Lucifer, and his army. Is that
Mm-hmm.
that
Yep.
thing?
And
Okay.
I think Archangel Michael is part of the Son of God, fought like for the free race of man. I think the Trinity, it's the Mother, the Father, the Son, and then also the what did you call it? Like the evil brother or the alter
Alter
ego?
ego, is that
Yeah.
the perfect term?
I tend to feel like, yeah, I think the Trinity, it's not just the Mother, Father, the Son. I think it's the Mother, Father, the Son, and then the alter ego of the Son that gave us duality. I mean, I for some reason always deep down I always knew that Lucifer was not the bad guy. It's like, we can't just blame Lucifer. Like Lucifer is not the bad guy, you're the bad guy. You did the bad thing. He just gave you the opportunity to do the bad thing, to evolve and to grow. So, in terms of honoring duality, like I see Lucifer as the consciousness that gave us duality to learn, evolve, and grow from. And then wrapping up this time around, it's like all these alter egos, just like within ourselves, all of our alter egos, all the different personalities that we've created within ourselves to cope with a trauma-based society, we are now integrating all those alters into one, coming back into the heart so that we can, have this really beautiful experience of being a creator again and creating at a higher level. So yeah, I tend to feel that way also.
Now, in a war like that, I'm I'm drawing a blank on what time period it was said that war happened with Archangel Michael versus Lucifer, but
Yeah, I have it written down somewhere from the Secrets of our Mentee. Like I have it to reference somewhere, but I forget.
I mean, is there any way if a war like that is happening, um, how is there any way that us humans can tap into it to like
Yeah.
perceive it on like a movie screen if we wanted to? Um,
Uh,
like, can we access through remote viewing, or if we were to access it through remote viewing, would the warriors say, "Hey, you're not supposed to be watching us, beat it," or something like that?
Well, it seems like the group called the Watchers is Archangel Michael's group, and I think the best remote viewers are the Watchers. And there seems to be a level of protection over the beings that are affiliated with this group called the Watchers, also connected to Book of Daniel, which, by the way, they talked about in the latest episode of Ancient Aliens on History Channel. It was the September 14th episode. They talked about Book of Daniel. So I don't know if you can because this is the group that was like the remote viewing crew. So I don't know if you can remote view it.
Well, I know Jim Mars. He talked about remote viewing some like major higher spirit level entity headquarters in a ziggurat-like structure, and when they went into the pedestal inside like the middle of the structure, some entity came up to him and said, "Congratulations on finding us through remote viewing. You're not supposed to be here. Now beat it." And that's where I got that from. So I kind of
Oh
wonder if
yeah.
the same thing would happen if we were viewing
I
a.
just I think that you can't even do it. It seems like if you go into remote view, because I mean I'm not trained in remote viewing, but I got an invitation to remote view one time. And during that time, I decided I took my own free will and tried to remote view somebody else, like another setting. And it was funny because it was like, it was almost like a scratch screen on the TV. Like it started to go there, but then it like fizzled like a TV, like the gray noise. And it was like, oh, I'm not allowed to access that information. So I have experienced that once. I am I'm under the impression that I cannot be remote viewed. I had an experience recently where someone tried to remote view me and I was totally aware of it and I could feel it was like I could feel their frustration. and it was kind of awkward. It's like this next level social awkwardness. And then it's like, do I tell the person that I know that they tried to remote view me and that couldn't? I mean, awkward.
I could imagine it was. So,
But I think that being like, I think people that are connected to the Watchers can remote view me. Very few people can, because I feel very much a part of that group, also connected to that group, the Watchers, the Archangel Michael crew, and yeah, those beings.
all right. So, switching gears here. Um, Back to AI. Some of the things I want to give some solutions out here. You do talk about some things here. This awareness makes the you write non-Christ more visible. Anything non-Earth resident, AR, pharmaceuticals, imbalance of femininity and masculinity, the inability to feel emotions, and being overly emotionally reactive. And you have the protect yourself from weaponized AI. Well, I'm not going to read over this. There's three things here on the list,
Hmm.
but I guess why don't you go over them in greater detail, and we'll then go from there.
Yeah, how to protect yourself against AI.
Yeah, those
Yeah.
three things.
So let's see where to start. Heavy metal detox is a really good idea because we have been bombarded by metal in our environment through pipes and chemtrailing. You can pretty much assume. I think people have gathered. I mean, I have seen videos of people gathering sediment from chemtrailing, getting into the water. Vaccines have metal in them. Um, even heavy metals getting in fish. So heavy metal detox is a good idea. I use cilantro. I have a heavy metal detox on my website, newearthconsulting.squarespace.com. And it's out of stock at this moment, but keep an update for that. It's 6-week herbal supplement, super easy, gentle, inexpensive. There's also people that I trust have used Zeolite, Zeolite. So heavy metal detox to because if you imagine your thoughts are electricity, you have an abundance of metal in your body, you're misfiring. It apparently gets stored in the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve connects the body and the mind. So we can pretty much assume a lot of autoimmunity, fibromyalgia, even chronic fatigue, maybe associated with Lyme's. You can probably help your Lyme's epidemic, at least the symptoms, by having heavy metal detox. You can pretty much assume a lot of these autoimmune neurological malfunctions are due to heavy metals in the body stored in the vagus nerve. So definitely heavy metal detox. The next thing is to make sure you get your bare feet on the ground, on the earth every day for at least 20 minutes a day, because the earth emits free energy. And that's characteristic of the stone circles, the reported millions of stone circles. This planet used to emit energy and it's beginning to emit more energy again. We are earthlings. We need to ground. We need to absorb that frequency, that energy. We also have to slow down the AI frequency by absorbing more of an earth resonant frequency. Getting higher up on the human frequency scale. This is on my website, but you can also just Google the human frequency chart. Letting go of guilt and shame, get some counseling to get rid of these lower level emotions, to be able to move into more peace and joy, self-acceptance, self-love. Can we clear and get more confident so that we can be more communicative with each other? Human interaction. People are sick because they're lonely. We're sick because we are spending too much time around technology, not enough time on the planet. There's a huge loneliness epidemic right now that I think we're going to catapult out of, because we're really getting uncomfortable how much time we spend alone. Technology has been great because we have this false sense of community. We have this false sense of community on technology, but when you close the computer, you're still alone. And so it's even if you don't have the opportunity to be around people all the time, just being able to be communicative, having a confident throat chakra that you can communicate with others is very important. Balancing out femininity and masculinity can look on my website or search Balancing Divine Feminine and Divine Masculine Traits. It's a chart with all the positive traits that feminines carry and all the positive traits that masculine energy carries. We want all of those, all of the positive traits, none of the negative traits. We want to work out things like self-sabotaging. We want to work out things like self-loathing, being reckless, being angry, blame, despair. So work out those traits, balance out those within ourselves. And then in terms of attracting healthy partners, healthy relationships, friendships, kind of knowing which energy we take on more of and allowing our partner or our people that are close to us, allow them to be what they are, balanced with each other, balancing out femininity, masculinity. And there's something very powerful that happens in a partnership when they balance out their divine feminine, divine. It's almost like the ability to create gets on super speed, like the ability to manifest on super speed. So when you balance these traits within yourself, your creation ability catapults. And when you balance with a partnership, it really emphasizes your ability to manifest and create a beautiful life and to attract more love and more abundance and healthier relationships, healthier people that just resonate with you. You become most like the 5 people you hang around with the most. Which, speaking of that, a lot of light workers, a lot of light warriors, people of the true light, a lot of them have handler type situations. So watch out for handlers. These are people that keep you from doing what you're supposed to be doing. And they're not always negative. It could be somebody there to empower you. You can go from having somebody be a handler to you to then all of a sudden not being, because you empowered yourself. You set boundaries that disarmed that behavior in them. And this is a big soul contract that a lot of light workers, a lot of people that are venturing into the ascension energies experience. So just look out for that. So we talked about the human frequency. We talked about balancing out femininity, masculinity, heavy metal detox. And that's a good start. Grounding every day, 20 minutes a day on the planet. That's a great start to really the love frequency, the peace and the joy. That high frequency is very combative against the AI frequency. So it takes discipline and it takes mindfulness. And it's important to not get apathetic and not get complacent and just, sit in front of the computer, passing the time. Really try to be proactive about planning out your days and, just being mindful about creating some more better, maybe opening some doors, opening some avenues, because we're really creating a new world.
Yes, the better world we create, the more people we need to be willing to create it, and
Yeah.
more people need to stop being couch potatoes. I say that over and over.
Yeah.
Bears are
Yeah.
and
And we do such great work when we get together. When people get together and they have a cooperative group cooperating on a project or on an idea, even an idea. So your intentions and your awareness. I think a lot of people, and this is another part of a psychological operation that is partly intentional and then partly not even intentional, but being aware that there is this psychological operation that we have to be like, I don't know, like have resources outside of ourselves. Like, oh, I need all this money so I can travel and do these things to better humanity. No, making the most out of the resources that you have. And the most powerful resource you have is your mind, your thoughts, your intentions, your awareness. So I'm a huge advocate for, speaking of monetary reset, the retail industry is absolutely insidious. I think it's absolutely it's got to go. People got to. I mean, I'm not. I'm still like in a very emotionally reactive state about it because I'm just really putting it out there. And it's kind of like my version of veganism. Like when vegans came out and they were like gung ho, I'm like, I'm getting out there and I'm like gung ho about ending like the retail industry. You're perpetuating slavery with your consumption. So, yeah, I'm just going to chill on that for a second because I'm still emotionally reactive about it. But when I see things, I see the slavery it's connected to. But here's the kicker. It's not getting into a low level emotion about it. With veganism, I even see there is an insidious side to veganism, vegan activism. They're showing these videos to people and they're getting so upset. They're getting so sad, so angry. And again, it's like a mind snap. It's mind snapping, making people go crazy. And then when you preach to, or when you advocate to other people about ending retail or going vegan, they're less likely to take you seriously if you're highly emotionally reactive. So it's the awareness without the emotional reaction and just keeping that on autopilot. Like autopilot, what does a world without money look like? Envision it. Envision every interaction you have, how it would look in a world without money. I'm not telling you what the answer is. Just think about it. We're creative. We create this world. Create a new world with your thoughts. Every time I see like a fancy blogger or like an Instagram model or like, ooh, follow me, social media personality, I'm like, I see your fancy dress. I see your fancy purse, little pom-poms in your hair. All I see is you perpetuating worldwide slavery. I don't think it's cute. I'm not judging the person. People don't know this. They're not, because the awareness is just being brought to people's minds about retail. So that's my way of like using the resources that I have, constantly just having awareness and intention and sending thoughts. We are walking around the 3D world in this avatar body. Our higher selves are walking around a higher holographic area with all the people around us also. So if, I just kind of send like positive awareness vibes to somebody, just through my thoughts, they're going to feel it. People are going to feel this stuff. We're not waiting to get a huge sum of money to start a big old commune or some sustainable community. It's like player characters versus non-player characters. We just need the player characters, which are probably your viewers are what I call player characters. It's been estimated, and there's no way of proving this, but there's about 300 to 400,000 player characters for the 8 billion people on this planet. These are people that have a high and potent consciousness. It's almost like we are responsible for this wider group of people. We might not know them in the physical, but we affect them in the metaphysical. So if I create this awareness around the retail industry and put good vibes and thoughts and intentions out there and maybe joke about it with my friends here and there, obviously, I know that because I am such a player character, my consciousness is going to affect a wider group of people. And then next thing we know, this entire retail industry is going down. And I really look forward to that.
Well, another thing that's worth discussing regarding, we're almost out of time here, but one last subject worth talking about. If you want to see a world without money, it's kind of directly connected to it. We got to ditch the oil, and all the other suppressed technologies out there have to be brought out into the open. And this is what's really disturbing and hard to swallow about this is that there are some sources and forces out there, like Akashic Records reader Andrew Bartz is talking about some timeline genocide that happened in 2004 on a timeline where all the ETs and UFO technologies and the extraterrestrials were brought to light, and the suppressed technology was brought to light. And well, all it did was cause society to fall apart because people couldn't handle the truth about being lied to for so long. And
Mm.
there's also Corey Good talking about how at least one of the ET councils out there is insisting that information be brought out slowly and gradually because they don't think that releasing all at once is a good idea because they don't think people can handle the truth. And someone like me kind of can't help but want to rip the hair out of his head and hearing that and saying,
Yeah.
damn it, I don't want to be 99 years old when all this stuff gets released. Okay?
Yeah.
That's not
Well,
what I want. That's not why I'm here on this earth. How's about you give the human race a much needed and much deserved kick in the pants, I say,
yeah.
and rub it
Yeah.
in their face and say, this is your punishment for being apathetic sheeple. Now you have no choice but to believe this technology exists. Well,
Oh
unfortunately, that doesn't seem
man.
to be the way that people want to do it, including the ETs.
Yeah.
So what solutions do you see to maybe speed up the process?
Yeah. Well, I'm laughing and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so evil for laughing. No, I'm not. This is the thing. Like when I started coming into this info, I've spent a lot of time being upset and crying about just the realities that we face in the near future about people dying, a lot of people dying. A lot of people leaving this planet. Maybe not necessarily dying, leaving this planet. But I think nature has a way of fixing itself. And while we're sitting around, and it's in the irony about in a world without money, I think that a lot of the, quote unquote, like sheeple will be like, oh, it sounds so ghetto. It sounds so like hippie. It sounds so like, oh, we're going to live on a No, we're going to have access to more and greater technology. It's going to be so much more advanced. That's the greatest irony about, a monetary shift. But the thing about, getting rid of oil and these things about waiting and waiting and wait, it's like nature has a way of fixing itself, guys. So the longer we wait, the more that this AI is going to get stronger because AI is gaining strength. It's going to get stronger and stronger and stronger. And I have firsthand witnessed just how strong this nasty thing is. People are already noticing it. That a handful of people now say that they ventured into new and expansive information and then naturally were attacked by something that won't let them sleep. They get electrocuted when they go to sleep. That's the AI sentience. These are normal people who don't even know me, my information, anything like that, saying, hey guys, like I'm going to sleep at night and like I'm getting electrocuted and like waking up. That's the AI. So this is going to be well, is nature has a way of fixing itself. That's my short answer. And AI coming in hot and really pushing people to get with the program. Yeah, we're gonna see some releases of some technology. Also, like release their technology. No one's gonna kill you for it. The tides have shifted. So if you have some technology and you're afraid, maybe have a meeting with me if you need some faith. Like you can release that stuff. Nothing. I can say whatever I want. April 2019 this year, something shifted. I remember I was making my presentation for a study ranch and I asked my guides and I was like, can I even say this? Like, is this even allowed? Is it too dangerous? They laughed. They're like, you can say whatever you want. And that has been the tone. And there are so many people that ventured into new projects starting April of this year. It's unbelievable how many people I talk to, and they're like, something changed like April of this year. Something, we all felt it. A lot of your viewers, you guys have probably felt something major shifted in April this year. And so, yeah, like this is totally nothing. We can only have the illusion, we can only have the resistance of something stopping us, but nothing can actually stop us anymore. So I think we're going to see that roll out very soon, sooner than, I don't know, these predictions are telling us.
Well, one thing I want to end on my end of the level here is that one thing, good thing that should end is the Roman Empire of the modern era that is the United States of America is supposed to, if the astrology is right, and around that solar eclipse that's going to cross the country in April of 2024. But well, that remains to be seen how that's going to play out, and everything up until then is going to
Mm-hmm.
play out. And of course, everything up until 2037, I'm certainly going to want to watch with an open eye now that I've heard what Brad Johnson and his spirit sources have had to say about that. But anyway, we've almost reached the 2 hour mark. I'll give you the last couple minutes now. Get out anything you'd like to get out, Lauren, and make a sales pitch if you want out of all the work that you do and all the things that you offer. You're welcome to do that, and then I'll close it out after that.
Great. Awesome. Thank you so much again, Andrew. This has been awesome. So yeah, guys, check out my website, newearthconsulting.squarespace.com. Book a meeting if I inspired you in any way and you just want to connect with me. I know a lot of us don't have people we can just connect with on this stuff because the forces of the true light are so far and few between. If you want counseling for anything, general meeting counseling, it's donation based, while Ascension Coaching is 1 hour, $60. I send you a questionnaire and send it back to me prior to our meeting just to make the most out of our time together. And I've gotten good feedback. I've gotten a system down now, so good response, good system, good flow, making the most of our time, making the most value out of your contribution. And donations are greatly appreciated at this time. If you feel guided to donate, I feel guided to ask. There's links on my website, places to donate. Thank you so much. Thank you to everybody who has donated. I do have a Patreon, Lauren Ascension on Patreon. You can enjoy the perks of being a patron on Patreon, a discounted monthly Ascension coaching session, gift webinars for donation. I have one that's how to responsibly exit the monetary system, debt forgiveness through the primordial mother spirit. I have another one, AI, the truth about AI and your health and your connection to source. I made one today that is a health check for the tech world. It's something that I made to present to local tech companies in Austin. We'll see how well received it is. Hopefully, I mindfully curated it so that it could be presented to people that don't necessarily, and I'm not really throwing out all the spacey era aspects of technology, but if that's something you're interested in, I have a new webinar that's a little bit more PG-13 about the AI sentience and just how to protect your health. So my services, my products, I think that's it. I sell CBD, I sell detoxes through nature's sunshine, essential oils, mostly lemon oil. It's a great replacement for antacids, omeprazole, Nexium. We really want to move out of the synthetic health industry and into a more holistic, earth resonant health industry. So, yeah, that's it. Thank you so much, Andrew.
You're very welcome. Out of curiosity, what conferences are you going to be at in the future?
I currently don't. Well, the 5D. Let's see. What is it? 5D in April. 5D events. April 3rd, 4th, and 5th. The New Humanity Movement. Yeah, tickets on alienevent.com. So I guess I shall see you there. I'll be speaking at that one.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it to that one. Definitely the one in November, but
good.
I'm not sure. But
good.
If you don't see me, well, have fun.
Yeah.
I'm going to miss you guys, but I'm trying to. There's other things on my mind. I got some other conferences. I'm trying to, for the sake of variety, alternate around and.
Well, I'm a little bit of a disruptor in this industry, so I'm gonna lay low for a minute until I get personally invited by, I don't know. I'm laying low right now because I'm a disruptor. I talk about the things that they don't want us to talk about.
I do that all the time on this show.
Yeah, that's probably why we were drawn to be friends.
Cool. Yes. Yep. Oh, and I just subscribed to your YouTube channel. Hope that
makes you fantastic. Happy. Yeah, absolutely. I do live talks almost every day, although they're less and less lately because I've been busier with other things, but they're really fun, interactive coffee talk news chats I do every day, almost 10:30 Central Time. So hop on those. They're really fun and interactive, and people really enjoy them.
Yeah. And one more thing. Someone like you could really teach someone like me how to quit his day job to exit the matrix a little bit more easily and market other things like my radio show. I'm going to go to Brendan Bouchard's conference in San Diego in October to help me with that. But a radio show,
Yeah.
just trying to monetize a radio show isn't going to get me everywhere to be able to quit the day job entirely. So
Yeah.
maybe you could we can keep in
Well,
touch and you can help me
totally.
with
I'll send
that.
you. I will help you like one-on-one, but I'll also send you the webinar because there's 5 steps. Reduce waste in every area of your life. You can start there. That's a good way to start transitioning.
Awesome. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I will upload this to YouTube by midnight tomorrow. Send you the link. You're more than welcome to upload it to your channel as well. And
Thank you.
I'll hope to see you at the future conference. Pleasure to talk with you. Very informative interview. Take care. Best of luck to you.
Thank you. You too, Andrew. Talk soon.